George Clooney says his and Amal Clooney's parenting is never perfect. And in that admission lies the story of how one of Hollywood's most admired couples are navigating fame, family, and the real-world pressures of raising kids in the spotlight. Let's dive in. At 64 years old, the Oscar-winning actor and filmmaker George Clooney has long been a fixture of Hollywood glamour. His wife, Amal Clooney, a prominent human rights lawyer, is equally accustomed to public scrutiny and global travel. But as they've entered the parenting chapter, together welcoming twins Alexander and Ella in June 2017, they've made clear the ideal of perfect parenting doesn't apply to them. In recent interviews, Clooney opened up. He and Amal may have the resources, the insight, and the intention, but you're never going to get it all right, he said. They're aware of it, they talk about it, and they embrace the fact that even they slip up. That candid admission sets the tone for a deeper look at how they live, what they value, what they guard, and how they cope with the gap between image and reality. First, some context. George and Amal met in 2013, tied the knot later that year in Venice, Italy, and in 2017 welcomed their twins Alexander and Ella. From the public's view, they've curated a relatively private life. Rather than constant red carpet photos of their children or daily celebrity parenting broadcasts, they've made decisions that veer away from Hollywood's spotlight. In an interview earlier this year, Amal emphasized, "We don't put our children out there. We've never put their photo out there or anything like that." She added that becoming a parent made her far more concerned about intrusions into the children's lives, the private home, the strain of fame. George himself has commented repeatedly on how parenting changed the trajectory of his life. In one interview, he recalled that the days of rushing off to war zones, chasing stories, living on location around the globe, they're behind him now. With kids in the picture, he and Amal chose a home base in France, on a farm, rather than Los Angeles. He said, "You know, we live on a farm in France. A good portion of my life growing up was on a farm. But now for them, it's like they're not on their iPads, you know? They have dinner with grown-ups and have to take their dishes in. They have a much better life." He explained his worry about raising the twins in LA, in the culture of Hollywood. France, they kind of don't give a shit about fame. I don't want them walking around worried about paparazzi. Within that private life lies the daily grind of parenting, driving kids to school, making lunches, managing chores, handling homework and sibling life. Clooney recently joked, speaking of his son Alexander, "My son looks exactly like I looked when I was his age, so it is sort of cut and paste in a way. I show him pictures of me when I was 8, and he thinks they're pictures of him." That moment of fun, father and son, the mirror image, the shared family history, is softened by the awareness that even George Clooney doesn't assume perfection. He added, "We're present, which is fine. We have very happy kids. We'll see. I mean, everybody screws it up somewhere along the way, so we're just trying to do the least of it as we can." The never perfect line is not just self-deprecating humility, it's a portal into their parenting philosophy. They explicitly reject the idea of curated perfect lives. They know mistakes happen. They know the public often sees only the highlight reel. They're saying, we're in that same boat. They are human. They have a global career, they have fame, they have wealth, but that doesn't inoculate them against the everyday challenges of parenting. Digging into specifics, in July of 2025, Amal detailed one of their home rules for preserving privacy. She instituted a phone basket for guests. When friends or family visit, phones go in the basket. No guest recording, no inadvertent sharing of children's images or private moments. That rule is a boundary built around the twins. Creating private moments and spaces is becoming increasingly difficult, she said. That's why we entertain at home. I now have a phone basket I use to take everyone's phones away. It's about protecting our kids. That's a deliberate effort to manage the intrusion of modern digital life, especially when you're a celebrity family. But the balancing act of career and parenting remains tough. George keeps working. His new film, J. Kelly, has just premiered. Amal continues her high-profile human rights work. Their twin children are now 8 years old enough to notice differences, to ask questions about, why don't we live in LA? Why don't I see cameras? What does dad do for a living? George admitted his kids still don't fully realize the scope of his fame. He told a reporter, "Because I don't want them in it. Well, they actually don't know what I do for a living yet. No, not really." And when asked what careers he might hope for them, he laughed, "I hope, my God, a lawyer? That'd be amazing." He went on to joke that his son dressed for Halloween as Batman, and George reminded him, "You know, I was Batman." His son's reply, "Not really." And George replied, "You have no idea how right you are." The public reaction to these revelations is interesting. On one hand, fans and media respond positively to the idea that a major celebrity is willing to admit imperfection, to talk candidly about parenting struggles. On the other hand, commentators note the irony. Yes, they have every resource. They live on a farm in France, have private tutors, likely have staff. So the question arises, does never perfect sound different when you're George and Amal Clooney versus the average parent? Some say that's exactly why it matters. It humanizes them. Others say it sets a standard to which normal families might compare themselves unfairly. But from the couple's perspective, the key message appears to be, we're doing the best we can. They're designing a life where the 20s are given normalcy, but mixed with privilege, and where mistakes, disruption, and imperfection are accepted as part of the process. For example, George admitted that he used to go into dangerous zones, chase film rules without boundaries. Once the kids were born, they consciously changed their rules. He said, "You had to change sort of what the rules were. I used to enjoy going to places that were dangerous. We both had to change our goals on where we would go." That kind of pivot is both dramatic and instructive. It shows that parenting can reshape the trajectory of one's life, even at the pinnacle of success. Another interesting dimension is their marriage. George credited much of what makes their parenting work to the tone of their relationship with each other. Speaking about aging and his marriage, he said that one benefit of growing older was that he no longer cared about being right or winning arguments. He remarked, "When you're younger, you want to be right about everything." And Amal and I, famously, everybody gets ticked off when I say it, we've never had a fight. We've never had an argument. And some of it is because I'm at this point in life where if she wants to paint a wall red, I don't care. This harmony gives stability to the kids and a model for how to handle stress, conflict, and change. Of course, even the Clooneys have had to recalibrate. Being in their mid-60s and dealing with the demands of work, the public eye, and raising children means making trade-offs. George said he will keep working, but emphasized the need to spend time with family. We also have to focus on spending time with our family, spending time with the people we love, more time, because at the end of your life, you don't go, "I wish I worked more." That introspective note adds emotional weight to their parenting journey. Let's map out some of the bigger themes here. Privacy in childhood, choosing France over Hollywood, limiting exposure, no photos of the twins publicly, phone-free guest rules, work-life balance. Both parents maintain high-profile careers yet prioritize home life, simple routines, driving kids to school, family dinners. Acceptance of imperfection. They openly admit they're not perfect. They expect to screw up. They acknowledge it. Shifting priorities. Danger zones, war zone trips, Hollywood glitz, ditched in favor of simplicity, farm life, grounded kids. Modeling and legacy. George hopes the kids might follow Amal's footsteps rather than his. Wants them to choose based on love, not fame. Marriage and partnership, a united front avoiding conflict and letting go of ego, which supports consistent parenting. Now, let's follow a sample flow of their parenting day from one vantage point to illustrate how this plays out. Imagine the morning. George drives the twins to school, something he said he does most mornings. That in itself speaks volumes. The iconic actor taking on the school run ritual just like other parents. The children eat breakfast, probably with fresh produce from the farm, no paparazzi at the door, no red carpet chaos. Later, Amal spends time in her legal work, balancing high-stakes cases with the demands of being mom. They converge at home for dinner. Simple, intentional, with grown-up conversation and chores. Kids take their dishes in, help out around the farm, learn uncomplicated life lessons. The twins have friends. play outside, don't necessarily live in the relentless celebrity bubble. They learn that the world is bigger than fame, that work matters, but family comes first. Yet there are still distractions, still pressures, public appearances, travel, interviews, the reflection of being Clooneys, the need to protect identity and privacy, the burden of expectation, and the inevitable missteps, late nights, missed homework, a parent absent for filming, a child upset at not being at school. In those moments, parenthood becomes exactly the same as for millions of families. It is messy, imperfect. George's statement that you're never going to get it all right touches on just that. Perfection isn't the aim. Presence, intention, love, consistency, that is. And it's a powerful reminder. Even the celebrities we perceive as having it all still grapple with the same core issues. The difference is they've chosen to speak openly about it, and that transparency is refreshing. Critics and fans alike are engaging with this story. Many see the Clooneys as modeling a new kind of celebrity parenting, less flashy, more grounded. A contrast to families who weaponize Instagram for the brand, or, on the flip side, hide everything. George and Amal opt for a middle path. Share enough to illustrate values, but guard enough to keep childhood intact. Some commentators, though, caution about the privileged parent narrative. Is the struggle of we're not perfect the same when your kids live on a French farm, have tutors, and parents with global acclaim? The answer might be yes and no. Yes, they still face childhood, sibling dynamics, school issues, self-identity. No, they don't face the same financial or social limiters many do. Still, the human core of their story resonates: vulnerability, intention, fallibility. Another recent element worth exploring, George's reflection on aging. At 64, he's joked he's too old to worry about vanity. He's let go of some of the trappings of younger self-image and embraced a grounded approach. That maturity seeps into the family dynamic. He said it's aging or death. These are two options, right? I'm okay with it. That shift in mindset influences how he parents. Less about being the actor dad, more about being dad. In fact, he's expressed the hope that his kids follow Amal's path, not his. That sends a message of values: impact, justice, law, not just entertainment. In his words, I hope, my God, a lawyer? That'd be amazing. That's humility and aspiration wrapped together. The never perfect line also connects to how the couple manage public image versus private reality. They could easily present a perfect family narrative: red carpet, travelers, luxury homes. Instead, they acknowledge the occasional chaos, the challenges of parenting, the fact that fame doesn't equal smooth sailing. That authenticity draws viewers in. It creates trust. It creates relatability, even when the life on the surface seems extraordinary. Let's step through some of the specific milestones and revelations. The twins are now 8 years old. They were born in June 2017. The family lives on a farm in France, away from Los Angeles. George has said that raising kids in Los Angeles worried him due to Hollywood culture and fame pressure. Amal instituted a no-phones rule for guests to protect the kids' privacy. George admitted his earlier career choices, going to war zones, high-risk travel, changed once kids arrived. He revealed that he shows his son old photos, and the son asks, "Is that me?" because he looks so similar. George and Amal say they've never had a fight. He chalks it up to age, perspective, and prioritizing relationship over ego. Not directly parenting, but relevant because parental conflict affects kids. George says that at this stage of his life, he will work, but not at the expense of family time. At the end, you don't go, "I wish I worked more." For the viewer who may not follow celebrity culture, here's why this matters. Parenting is one of the most universal human experiences, yet we often see only idealized versions: social media feeds,
Perfect dads, perfect moms, perfect homes. Narrative like this pierces the veneer. It reminds us that even the most admired parents struggle, learn, adapt, and fail. That makes it less about George Clooney's perfect parenting and more about how two parents with huge resources still choose to focus on core human values and still say we don't get it all right. That message has pull and it has value beyond celebrity. What are the takeaways for other parents, celebrity or not? First, intention matters. George doesn't pretend otherwise. He says, we're trying, we're choosing. Second, boundaries matter. Choosing where you live, how private you remain, how many screens your children have, that is actionable. Third, acceptance of imperfection. You will slip up, you will miss things. Acknowledging that takes the weight off. Fourth, partnership matters. The way George and Amal support each other creates a framework where parenting mistakes are mitigated by teamwork. Fifth, values over image. George's hope that the kids follow Amal's path, not his, signals something deeper, guiding kids toward meaningful work, not just fame. Weaving throughout this story is the emotional layer. George saying, I feel very lucky. Amal saying, I treasure the laughter and the joy I get from just being with them. They're not hiding the joy. They're not hiding the pressures. They're holding both. That duality is human. It's real. And it resonates. Now, you might ask, what will the future hold for the Clooney family? The twins are growing up fast. They're at the age where school, friendships, extracurriculars, even social media will increasingly matter. The choices George and Amal make now, privacy, location, workload, travel, will shape the next phase, adolescence. Will they maintain the same farm in France routine? Will the kids want more public life? Will Hollywood eventually beckon one of them? George is already joking about his son's resemblance and his hopes that the kids pick a path different from his, but only time will tell. What we can count on is that the Clooneys seem prepared to evolve, to adapt, to admit when things don't go as planned. That kind of flexibility is perhaps the closest thing to perfect parenting one can aim for. In closing, the headline, George Clooney says his and Amal's parenting is never perfect, isn't a tabloid line. It's a window into a seasoned actor and a high-profile lawyer stepping into the parenting ring and saying, yes, we have ambition, yes, we have privilege, yes, we have challenges, and yes, we sometimes don't get it right. But we're here, we're doing it, we're committed. That truth is what makes the story compelling. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.